Hey everyone, Alex here for episode number 11 of Sports the NEMO Way, where we will be covering Chris Mullin, and he will be defended by Ray, who is the only one to include him on his list, at number 42 to be exact. So as usual, let me cover Mullin's career so Ray can make his case. The 6'6", 200-pound small forward that played for the Golden State Warriors and the Indiana Pacers, never winning a championship or an MVP award. He is a 5-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, playing 16 years in the league after being taken 7th overall in the draft, and also being a member of the Hall of Fame, with career averages of 18, 4, and 3 on 51% shooting. So, Ray, let's hear it.
All right, here we go. Chris Mullin was a deadly perimeter shooter, a shooter who can make it from anywhere on the court. As a clutch shooter as they come, he doesn't back down from any challenge, from any superstar, putting up 38 against Jordan and 41 against Magic. Could drive to the basket, and he could even cross you over, as surprising as that is. He was also on that innovative Run TMC team by Don Nelson, which was a run-and-gun style offense, and I say innovative because that's how half the NBA is played today. He was a consistent 20-point and 5-rebound a season player. Went to one and only NBA Finals with Indiana, which he lost to Los Angeles in 6. He is also a pretty good damn defender in his day, 43rd on the steals list. He's also 78 on the points list. So we can talk about some of today's players good on offense and defense. Well, keep talking because those guys aren't even on a list. But this hard-working man from St. John's is on a list. So suck it, you guys. You can call me crazy, but Chris Mullins is on my top 50.
All right, interesting case there. All right. I guess my first question is Drew, do you know who Chris Mullins is?
Yeah, I know who Chris Mullin is. Wasn't he part of the Dream Team? Correct.
He was,
Yeah,
yes.
So that's about it. I kind of remember playing for the Warriors a little bit, but I don't think I know too much about him. But I know who he is. It's not like I have no idea.
Fair enough.
He had a big run at St. John's in college too. He had a big rivalry with like Patrick Ewing in Georgetown, I think.
Didn't he play with somebody at St. John's? Didn't somebody else play there with him at the same time? Another NBA guy?
Oh, man, I don't know.
May have been, but I'm not really remembering right now.
I probably should have known that before I asked it. Sorry.
Big East was tough then.
Yeah.
And it was the basketball conference. For a while. Now it's, non-existent for the most part. But anyway, somebody want to go anti-Chris Mullin off first? Uncle Doug?
Sure, I'll go. I'm not really anti-Chris Mullin. I just think Chris Mullin didn't do enough for me to get on my list. I'm always comparing him to the bottom guys on my bottom guy on the small forward list was Dantley. Dantley had more rebounds, 5.7 to 4.1. He had more points, 24 to 18. That's why I went with him. I also kind of took a look at him with the shooting guards because, like Ray said, he was a good shooter. He could have played some shooting guard. Nowadays, he probably would be an excellent shooting guard. Might have been a better. Today I think he would have really torn it up. Mm-hmm. But again, my lowest shooting guard was Pistol Pete, who we'll talk about in coming episodes. Rebounds were close, 4-1, 4-2. Pistol had more assists, and again, 24 points to 18. I will give Chris a little bit of credit. Part of he had some personal issues early on in his career, and if you look at his career numbers, you see good, and then when he got straightened out, they got really good. That's when he had his big numbers. And you wonder kind of if certain things hadn't happened early in his career, where he would have ended up.
All fair points. You have anything to say in response, Ray, before somebody else goes?
No, I want to hear the round table first, and then I can go back in.
Oh, okay. All right. Wait, what you got?
Well, I also have Dantley as my one of my lower small forwards, and then I have Havlicek as my number 10. So kind of a combination of Dantley, I think, put up far better stats. I don't think either one of them won a title or anything like that. But I think Dantley was a better, much better scorer. Obviously not a better shooter, but better scorer. Put up a lot better scoring numbers. I think the rebounding numbers are probably close, but I think Dantley beats him in rebounds. I think. Then Havlicek, he's my number 10 small forward. Obviously, he has tons of hardware and accolades, kind of a different direction. What is he? An eight-time champion? Obviously, that's the
8 rings.
the old-time Celtics, so that's not not really fair. But he has a lot more accolades. He is an old-time player, so you can go back and forth about that. I also think Havlicek put up very impressive stats for a long period of time as well. And I'll start with that for right now.
All right. Drew, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, for my 9 and 10 small forwards, I have Dominique and Paul Arizin. And Dominique was scoring champ. He did that once. He averaged 24, 6, and 2, so he did a little bit more than what Chris did. He was 9-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, a little bit more than Chris. He didn't get any titles like Chris, but I think some of his stats were better for him. And then number 10 was Paul. He obviously had a championship, kind of like Wade with John Havlicek. He played in the 50s and 60s and later. So, I mean, he only had one title, but he was the best player on his team. Not that John wasn't good, but he had a lot of other people with him. So, he's kind of like that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I also compared him to some guys, but I have some other things. My big thing, a couple of big things with Mullin for me was how short his peak was. He, like Uncle Doug mentioned, he made some bad decisions and kind of threw away the first couple years of his career to alcoholism, I guess. And then after he got out of rehab, his career blew up for a few years after that. But then his body broke down. Unfortunately, I think we've had that case made a couple times already on this podcast, where guys' peaks or guys' careers in general were just cut short by injuries, unfortunately. So his peak, although good, is relatively short due to those two things. So I think that hurts him a little bit. And I'm going to disagree with you. Although he did play the passing lanes and collect a lot of steals, Chris Mullin's a very poor defender. He couldn't stay in front of anybody because he couldn't move laterally. And teams had to hide him on defense all of his career. Although you mentioned Run TMC earlier, which is a very famous trio with him and Richmond and Hardaway. 3 All-Stars, 2 of which are now in the Hall of Fame, one of them being Mullin. Run TMC had a losing record the 2 years they played together.
Well, I mean, they were in the epicenter of the center power forward ever. So, I mean,
they were, yes.
So, I mean, that really didn't go over well. But, I mean, if you throw them in today's game, they would probably be dominant for us.
You're probably right. If they played today, they would probably be better. Although I would probably make the case that if everybody played today, they would be better.
Well, I mean, that's a fair point. Yeah, very fair.
Are you done, Alex? Sorry.
I'm not, but you can go ahead and cut in on
I
it.
have a curious question. Do you think Mullin was even the best one of the TMC?
No.
Ooh, who do you think?
I personally, I mean, we'd classify them in 2 different positions, shooting guard and small forward. But as an overall player, I think Mitch Richmond's better than Chris Mullin.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't really have a 100% opinion. I was curious.
I liked Tim Hardaway the best, personally, but his knee injury really derailed his career.
Well, I think stat-wise, Richmond was, about 30 a game for a while?
I don't know Richmond's stats off the top of my head. I wasn't prepared to discuss.
He had a couple
him,
years
but
where he was way up there.
When he went to the Kings, he was pretty deadly.
And then Hardaway obviously ran the offense, got all the passing numbers, scored 18 to 20, and Mullin was kind of in between them with the mid-20s. I think he got 5-6 assists a game.
So
I really don't know who was the best one. I was curious.
Richmond was 21-4, and
For his
3.5
career?
assists for his career.
For his career? Okay.
Yeah, that's his career numbers.
I thought he got up to close to 30 a couple times.
like I said, he had some really big seasons with Sacramento. I can't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but he did have some really nice seasons with Sacramento. I think he went somewhere else after Sacramento and had some nice seasons.
Washington.
Played for the-
Washington, there you
yeah,
go,
Washington.
Washington.
He
Yeah.
finished up with the Lakers.
Yeah,
Didn't
he
he
won
get
a title. Yeah, he won a
got
title.
with the Lakers.
He
but
was the second guy because they read Rice for the first one,
Right.
and Richmond for the second one, and J.R. Ryder for the third one.
right.
Sorry, we kind of got off
No,
topic
I just
there.
thought it was a curious question. If you thought Mullen was the best out of the three, I'm not really sure. I mean, I didn't watch them actually play. I've watched YouTube clips and looked up their stats and stuff. I think they all had their own role. Obviously, Mullen was the deadly shooter. Hardaway ran the offense. Richmond was the go-to all-around scorer.
Well, I guess my question is, if you have three guys, we all know who they are, Richmond, Mullen, and Hardaway, two of which are in the Hall of Fame, one of which is like a multi-time All-Star, borderline Hall of Famer, if you ask me. If not for his knee injury, would be a clear Hall of Famer. I think that's a little bit of a demerit, having a losing record with those three guys on the same team. Whether you put it on Mullen, whether you put it on them as a collective, whether you put it on Nelson, I don't know. But I kind of feel like that you can't have that much talent on a squad and have a losing record. I'm not saying you should win championships necessarily, but to have a losing record.
Sorry, side note. Drew Googled it for me. Mitch Richmond got to the low and mid-20s. He didn't quite get up to 30, but he got between like 21. I think he got like 25 or 26 later on. But yeah, so he was mid to low 20s.
Way to go, Drew.
I'm here.
Well, if we're hitting on them not winning a lot, did Mullen really have any team success until he went to Indiana and was a bench player?
I mean, they made the playoffs, but there wasn't. I mean, I don't know what you're classifying as success.
I mean,
but-
I'm really
I mean, no.
asking.
I mean, there was no like finals appearance. I don't even think they made the Western
I know he had that
Conference
big
finals in
playoff
Golden
performance
State.
against the Lakers. He had some big.
Yeah, he had a
game.
big game against the Lakers.
Yeah, that's like one of those popular moments.
I don't remember what year that was. When I was looking this stuff up, it came. Now I just kind of feel like dumb. I guess not having all this. I guess this is what I prepared for this like a month ago, and then now I'm re-bringing it all up.
Yeah.
It's not as fresh in my head. Anyway, so that all being said, I did compare Chris Mullin to to the three small forwards on my list that did not make your list. And those three guys, I believe there's a pattern here, by the way. John Havlicek, Rick Barry, and Elgin Baylor.
Ooh.
I'll start off with the easiest case, Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor's career statistics are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not very many people in NBA history compared to Elgin Baylor statistically. But he also has double the All-Star appearances of Chris Mullin, and he had a very short career, and Mullin played 16 years. He had double the All-Stars and double the All-NBAs in a much shorter career. So I just didn't think he stacked up with Baylor much at all. Rick Barry, who was a similar styled player of Chris Mullin, a jump shooter, a guy that can still put the ball on the floor and create for not only himself but others, carried a team to a championship and was the best player on a championship team. He outscored him, out-rebounded him, and out-assisted him, and had considerably more All-Stars and All-NBAs.
And I think he was 3 or 4 times All ABA too.
Yes, and he also won a championship in the ABA.
Right.
And Rick Barry probably would have got MVPs if everyone didn't hate him.
That is true.
Yeah.
I've heard that case being made by old players that
Yeah.
that was back when the players voted on the MVP awards, and the players hated Rick Barry, all of them, even his own teammates, so they all refused to vote for him, even though he had some really crazy, like he averaged 36 in a game one year, and didn't win the MVP because Bob McAdoo did. Or is that I don't know. Bob McAdoo won an MVP that he had a great season for anyway, whether it was that season or not. I don't remember for sure.
Let me ask you this one. How many games did they play total? Like each player?
I mean, like Mullin and who?
Like total career games played. Not Mullin, but Havlicek or, the guys you've been mentioning.
Honestly, I don't have their games played in front of me. I'm not 100% sure.
Because I have here Chris Mullin played 986 games. And I think that's right around Kawhi Leonard's current total.
Wow.
And
no, I do believe
Kawhi's
Kawhi
like
Leonard has like
500.
500 in some games.
well, okay, 500. So
John Havlicek played 1,270.
okay, so I mean, he's right in that area of between Kawhi and Havlicek, and I mean, Kawhi got a point of probably not making any kind of stat list because he's more conformed to the playoffs. And I'm not trying to get stupid here. I see you grinning over there, Alex.
Well, I'm grinning because you're using Kawhi as a case against me, and obviously I don't like Kawhi on the list.
I know. But I just have to use somebody as an example. And then you got Havlicek at 1,200 games, and I mean, how many points did he score?
Havlicek?
Yeah.
He's the career leader for Celtics history. He
It's
has
like
a lot.
27,000 points, but
Yeah,
I don't know where that ranks.
He averaged 20.8 a game and 6.3 rebounds for Havlicek.
Elgin Baylor played 846 games.
Okay. So I guess my point, what I'm trying to get is, he's right in the middle between those two, and he's like midway on the list in steals and points, and Kawhi's not on a list, and he's played maybe a 25% less, and Havlicek has a career leader in points for the Celtics, and probably leads that whole team or something, right?
I mean, he's the Celtics all-time
the whole time
scorer,
leader.
Yeah.
So like, he's not played that many games, but he's played that many games, and he's on a list. Is what I'm trying to say. So I mean, he's not. I mean, he's not like Jordan high, but I mean, he's not shit either.
No, I'm not trying to make the case that he shouldn't. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, and I believe he should be a Hall of Famer. I'm not trying to make that case. I just can't find a place to put him on my list because I can't find somebody he's better than. I mean, I'll go back to the last guy is Havlicek, who does have 8 rings, but we can discuss 8 another time. But the last 2 he won in the 70s as at least one of them, he's the best player on the team.
Without the Russell and Cousy.
Yeah, and Russell and Cousy, those guys were all gone.
Yeah.
It was him and Dave Cowens.
Right, he and Cowens.
Some people will say Cowens was better in one of them. I gave Hondo credit for being the best player on both of them, but you can go either way. Either way, he has 2 championships without those guys, and he's at least the best player on one of them. Also, he has triple the amount of All-Star games and All-NBAs in Mullin. He outscored him, out-rebounded him, out-assisted him. And Havlicek was considered an all-time great defender. So, like, he puts up some seasons statistically that are just ridiculous after Russell and Cousy and them were gone. Like, almost triple-double seasons where, as a small forward, he's grabbing 8-9 rebounds a game. I should have probably brought Havlicek's stuff.
He was 8 times all defense.
Yeah, 8-time all defense. And Mullin is 0 in that department. I guess what I'm saying is here, Ray, I don't hate Chris Mullin. I don't dislike Chris Mullin. I don't think he's not a Hall of Famer. Nothing along those lines. But I do believe when we're talking about this list, I just believe he's lacking in some areas. Even if he would have won that title with Indiana, he was a role player on that team. I don't know how much it bumps him up. I don't think it bumps him up over Havlicek, Barry, or Baylor, who are the 3 guys that are on my list that are not on yours. Honestly, when I look at this, Hondo, Havlicek, and Barry, I don't know what Chris Mullin could have done to go over those 3 guys. It had to be a lot. I mean, I believe Baylor is on everybody's list but yours. Barry is on 3 of our list. You and Wade both left him off. And I don't know about Hondo. He's on mine, and you said he's on yours.
Yeah,
is Hondo on
mine.
yours?
Havlicek.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you have I think you left off a ton of older guys that are like on everybody else's list. I think you may have a secret problem with the old guys. I'm very vocal about it. But I think you have a bigger problem than me with the old guys.
I might have a 90s habit that it's hard for me to
you
break.
definitely have a 90s habit.
And I might need to go to rehab for it, but I can't do it.
Well, I have to agree. The 80s and 90s were the best time in basketball. I think.
I 100% love the 80s and 90s. That's actually, I think, is the not only my favorite, but the best time of
it was
basketball.
great basketball.
I know the famous Nick Wright would disagree and say that was garbage basketball with no spacing, but I loved watching it.
Oh yeah, some of those series were great.
What you got, Ray? What you got? I just who would you remove off my list to add Chris Mullin? I mean, I don't. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'd have to take Barry off. I just like Chris Mullin's game better.
Okay, so
I like his style of play better.
but I just like that was just my case. Is they're very very similar players.
Right.
Only one was able to elevate his game to carry a team to a championship.
Now, who all was on his team?
Oh, a bunch of guys I don't know because I don't know.
You
That's
talking about
the
Rick
point.
Barry?
Yeah.
I don't know their names, but I watched this big documentary on YouTube. They were really good. When he went to the ABA, I think they still won like 60-some games. They were really good.
I don't know.
That was like one season. I don't know how long he was in the ABA. I remember they talking about like for one season. Because the Warriors, correct? It was the NBA
Yeah,
team.
the Warriors. Yeah.
And then I think they were still really. They might have won without him. I don't remember.
Well, they didn't win a championship without him.
They might not, but I think they were at least really good.
Well, here I guess
I don't know their names though.
we talked about it last week. I think that there's only 33 players all time to be the best player on a championship team.
Yeah.
Rick Barry is one of those guys.
So's Kawhi.
And
about
we're
that.
talking about a guy that, if you take Wilt out of the equation, I guess, and Harden just did it last year, or the year before, he has the highest points per game average in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
He has the highest points per game average in the NBA Finals of all time. I'm not trying to make my entire Rick Barry argument here because that episode will show the light of day here shortly.
I have just a question to kind of throw a loophole into this. If Rick Barry goes to the 90s, which is a much harder era than what he played in, do you think they're similar players? I'm really curious.
I think if you give Rick Barry the 3-point line,
Mhm.
his career vaults higher.
Yeah,
But it's
I
much
think his
tougher
numbers go up. He
competition.
was a shooter.
No, I know
he
he
could
was.
really shoot.
I mean, he already scored like 30-some points per game multiple times. But I'm saying a lot. I mean, you were talking about Elgin Baylor, who also put up insane numbers in the almost same exact era, a little bit before, I think. Barry.
Yeah, a little bit earlier, but
Right.
yeah.
But it's close. But in the 90s is where a lot of people, 80s, 90s, like the toughest era of basketball when you get bigger people, better athletes, more physical. Just a question I was curious. Do you think Rick Barry, I think he translates, obviously, but do you think they're more similar in different eras? Or in the same era, I mean, I'm sorry.
I think Rick Barry may struggle a little bit more defensively.
Okay.
But that's just, I mean, as much as anything, it's stereotyping his foot speed because he's white, I guess.
I mean,
But
yeah.
he was a knockdown shooter
And just like,
and also a really nice passer. So I think his game really translates pretty much everywhere.
Mullen was similar, though. I mean, in
I
Mullen's,
know.
Mullen's prime, yeah, he's 5-6 assists a game, 25 points in those peak years, 23, 24,
Yeah,
25.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I think they're very, very similar players.
Yeah.
I just think Barry elevated his game to a level that, I mean, you're talking what Mullen's best scoring season's 26 points a game,
Probably something like that.
and Barry's is 36 points a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, right at 20.
26.5.
26.5.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I put too much emphasis on being the best player on a championship team, but when we're comparing guys head to head who are very similar, and one's the best player on a championship team, one has no championships at all, I think that's a big outlier to me. Plus, he outscored him, out-rebounded him, and out-assisted him.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, kind of opinion. If
Well,
you
I guess-
change eras, it does change your game a little bit.
The two of you that are talking to me about this right now, you are the two that left Rick Barry off your list. So let me ask you this: why?
I forgot about him.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I admitted that before we started all these episodes. I was like, I left off Rick Barry.
And I don't think I really thought about it. Like, I mean, I'm not. You guys are engrossed into the history of the basketball more than I am. My mind is pretty much like the Pacers ABA titles, and then the 80s and 90s, and then some of the 2000s, and then I just have a brain fart between like 2004 and now. So I mean, I have my biased opinion between the 80s and 90s, and that's kind of where I'm stuck. So that's what I kind of throw at you, and because that's what I know. But with Rick Barry and Elgin Baylor and some of them other older guys, it really doesn't register because it doesn't, click in my head because they're not really who I think of and not who I really watch, For some of you guys, you probably watch, shit ton of NBA TV, and I mean, Doug here, he grew up in the era where he's watching some of these guys.
Yeah, I'm the old guy. Now, I didn't watch Elgin.
Well,
but some of these guys
you know
I
what
did.
I'm saying.
I think
Yep, I am the old guy.
I think a big thing that we're kind of dancing around is with Chris Mullin. One, if he doesn't have the alcohol problems and he has a longer peak, that would have helped a lot. And if he gets a championship, even as a sixth man with the Pacers, he's still a really important part of the team. That probably boosts him up a lot. So I think that, and the other guys either have a longer peak and better stats, or just accomplish more, or both.
Yeah, I think, if a coach had got, I forget which coach it was that finally convinced him to go to rehab. If somebody had recognized that a little sooner.
Was it Don Nelson?
I think maybe it was Don Nelson.
Yeah.
And before he got heavy, and, heavy and playing basketball and all the alcohol, probably contributed to his drop-off later.
His knee injuries.
Right. I mean, that extra weight and all that stuff, it cost him in the long run.
I mean, when you're an alcoholic, that's terrible for your joints and all that. That wears and tears in your body. And
well, and when you're trying to be a top-level athlete,
yeah,
it's tough.
I would say if Chris can get his points up to like 21, say, and 7 rebounds, and say he gets a championship with the Pacers as the sixth man, that vaults him, I think, a lot up. Gets some points up in the 20s, rebounds up to 7. I'd say he does that. Do you think more people consider him for their list if he does that?
if he gets a
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I'm trying to think. Like the championship would definitely help. He would be a sixth man, but he was a really important part of the team.
I also think that he falls into that small forward category, which is one of the toughest categories when you look back, because you've got Elgin Baylor, Larry Bird, LeBron James, KD, Dr. J, Paul Pierce, Dantley, Pippen, Havlicek, Barry. I mean, the list goes on. Small forward is a tough category.
I personally think it's the second toughest position behind center.
Yeah, the centers are loaded.
Yeah, centers were loaded too.
Centers
I agree.
Number one.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. Maybe I'm being more lenient, or maybe I'm just being a bigger dick to Ray. I don't know.
Bigger dick.
That's fair. I don't think the sixth man title gets him on my list.
You don't think it? You just don't think it's enough being a sixth man to really give him a lot of credit for it? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not saying I'm not giving him credit for it. I just don't think it vaults him up enough to get him onto my list.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying it doesn't improve his career. I'm just saying, literally the 3 guys we're looking at are Havlicek, Barry, and Baylor.
Yeah.
And I think those guys fall into 2 categories, which I think most players from our list fall into 2 categories, or they fall into both of them at the same time. You either win, or your stats are out of this world. And some guys do both, but they seem to be farther up the list. And I just don't think Mullin falls into either category. He has a brief portion there where his numbers are very nice. They're not Elgin Baylor nice, where it's ridiculous, or even Rick Barry peak is out of this world. But he also didn't win. So if that Run TMC team wins the championship, that conversation may be different.
I have Uncle Doug kind of hinted on this earlier. Chris Mullin probably would be a monster today. Shooting NBA, where he gets told to shoot it a 3-pointer 15 times a game, he would kill it today.
Well, I just looked at it because I was getting ready to say this as well. The year in his career where he shot the most threes a game is 3.7.
Yeah, and he's one of the best shooters of his era, if not the best.
He's one of the best shooters of all time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we knock today's NBA a lot. Not everyone can translate today's NBA. There's a lot more fouls, and it's a lot less physical, obviously. but you have to shoot the ball. Not everyone has that talent, and Chris Mullin is, like you said, one of the greatest ever. So in today's NBA, he would put up insane numbers probably.
He shot over 45% from three, like 4 times in his career.
I mean,
But if you, like I just said, the best part of his game is shooting.
Yeah.
And he's shooting 3 times a game, like only 3 times his career. Everything else is even lower than that. So if you turn him loose, I'm not even saying like Harden loose where he's shooting 12 or 15 a game, but even if you say shoot 8 a game, that probably does something special to his numbers.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
because like I mean, Luka, who is like a 32, 33% three-point shooter, shoots like 10 threes a game. So you get Chris Mullins in there, who's not just a sharpshooter; he's a great all-around player and an all-star. He would, I think he would. I'm trying to compare him to someone in today's NBA, but I can't think of anybody at the top of my head. But yeah, I think, but I do think he would flourish in today's NBA more than a lot of other people would.
I think not all around, but as far as the way he could excel shooting wise, we would probably see him played like JJ Redick. As far as like you'd run him off pin downs, you'd spot him up, you would set screens for him and have him run off of them. He would probably move around the floor. I'm not saying they're the same player. I'm just saying I think that's the way he would be used in today's NBA.
But he was, as far as getting open for shots, yeah, you're right. But he was a very good passer. So I think you probably put the ball in his hands more than you think.
I think Mullin is one of those guys that's like a perfect secondary ball handler. He's not your main distributor, but the guy that when that guy leaves the floor or when that guy is being double teamed or anything, that he's the secondary guy that comes in. He's a, like you said, a good passer. He can run the pick and roll. He can facilitate for those guys. But also, if you leave him open, he's knocked down.
I got a comparison with a little alteration. A little worse defense, but better offensive. Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, that's pretty good one. Yeah.
Gordon Hayward is one of the
because Gordon Hayward is also a very good facilitator.
Very good passer. He's surprisingly good at driving to the basket. Rebounds a little bit. He's a pretty good defender. Mullins a little better offensively, but I think that's and Hayward's no joke.
That's a good comparison.
Hayward made an All-Star game or two, I think.
So let me ask you this, and this is not me trying to slight Mullin. This is a legit question. Why did Mullin make the dream team?
Shooting.
You think that's what it was?
Well, I think all those great players. Jordan wasn't a great shooter. Magic wasn't a great shooter. Bird could barely play because of his back. Barkley wasn't shooting. Malone wasn't shooting. Robinson wasn't shooting. Ewing wasn't shooting. You need a shooter.
Yeah, I think outside shooting probably was his
Stockton could shoot a little.
So let me ask you this: if the Isaiah thing doesn't happen, he's obviously a logical choice to probably be on the team. Is Mullin the one that leaves?
Well, they don't play the same position, so I don't know.
I mean, that's true.
Do you take off Stockton? Well, you can't. You gonna take off a forward for another point guard?
Right.
You already got Magic, and I'm trying to think. Who
Magic and Stockton.
Jordan handled the ball a lot. He's Drexler on the wing.
You had Pippen.
Pippen actually was a very good point forward.
I don't think ball handling was ever going to be a problem because all these guys were used to having the ball in their hands. Even Barkley handled the ball a ton for the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying he had a very specific role. But I think Isaiah Thomas doesn't fill that role on the Dream Team. That's my opinion.
You think Stockton is removed to add Isaiah then?
I think it logically has to be a ball handler.
Well, I mean, truthfully, if you're looking at the players, I say Leitner goes. But again, if you're going position for position, then probably Stockton.
I think Leitner is the obvious one to leave, but I don't think that was allowed. They had to have a college player on the team.
Well, I think you're not going to tell Isaiah go set up in the corner and shoot threes.
Right.
That's not going to be his role.
No, I think you're right.
That's what Mullin was there for, was to shoot while Bird wasn't in the game.
Right.
So I think and at that time, who was the better shooter than Chris Mullin? I mean, Bird was pretty much retired and could barely run up and down the floor.
That's true. I mean, and like in the famous scrimmages, Bird is laying on the sidelines with a pad on his back.
Yeah.
He's not even involved in those scrimmages, unfortunately.
I would have loved to have been there to see that. Man, I've read that story, seen the video. That I've been a game to see.
You ever? I'm sure you've heard it. Magic has been in a couple of interviews and said the story about Michael Jordan, where he kept talking shit to Michael, and then he said something really, really bad to him. He said Michael's eyes got all big, he got all pumped up, and said like, "Give me the damn ball." And then he said Jordan scored about 6 straight times to give him the lead and win. He goes, "That's the last time I pissed off Michael Jordan."
Yeah, I would love to have seen that. That just would have been probably one of the greatest games ever.
Yeah, I mean, you got
who's
Malone,
better than that bunch?
Malone and Barkley and Ewing and Robinson and Jordan and Drexler and Stockton and Magic
and
Pippen,
all that.
Mullen and then you got Christian Laettner running around somewhere.
He's sitting on the side with Bird. He's hurt.
Bird's like, just watch and learn, buddy. You got a long ways to go. But you obviously didn't learn too much.
Right. So to steer this back towards Chris Mullin again, sorry. Do we want to do our closing thoughts on Chris?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah.
All right, Drew, go ahead.
I just feel like if Chris maybe did a little bit more, getting more points, more something. Maybe if he got his issues figured out earlier in his career, maybe did a little bit more, then I'd see him being top 50. But with some of the people on my list, they've just accomplished a little bit more points, more accomplishments in their careers. That's my take on Chris.
Yeah, I think Chris falls into our what if bin. We've had some other guys that we've said what if, and had he gotten his personal issues straightened out a little sooner, maybe not done so much damage so he dropped off so fast, the numbers I think would have been higher. I think he demonstrated in the short peak that he did have that he had the capability of putting up big numbers. And, again, he didn't quite make my list because of the numbers, but the potential was there.
I think he was obviously one of the greatest shooters ever. Unlike some of the players we talked about, I do think he translates to every era of basketball. He was an amazing shooter, all-around player, but kind of a little bit repetitive, but pretty much what I said a little bit ago. Like Uncle Doug said, the alcoholism cuts the peak short at the beginning and probably the end, and the lack of championships or MVPs or all defensive teams or anything like that. He just doesn't quite stack up to the other guys in the end of our list, but the potential was there, I think. The ability was there. It just didn't quite happen. But,
I guess I'll just kind of reiterate part of what I said earlier. I think Mullin is a Hall of Famer. I don't have a problem with him being in the Hall. I just don't think he's on the level of top 50, especially in a position as packed up as small forward. To be honest with you, if he moved down just to the shooting guard position, he'd have a really good shot, because I think shooting guard is the weakest position of all the positions, is my opinion. He may have had a much better chance, but with him being a small forward, I just couldn't find a way to fit him on my list above any of the guys I already had on it. So I couldn't put him on.
Well, I think sometimes I get stuck in this basket like I did with Grant Hill, where I see the potential, but then that's all it is the potential. So, I see Chris Mullin's talent, and it's great talent. He's in the Hall, but maybe I ought to dial back a little bit and actually, get out of my daze and actually see the reality. But, you can't knock what could have been if he would have got through some stuff. He's a great, great, great shooter. But maybe I'm just a little biased. Maybe that's all it is. But that's why I put him on there. He's just a great shooter, and, you can knock his defense a little bit. But, he can get the ball. He's on the list for steals. Like, he gets it from you.
Before we move on to our next segment, I just want to say this. I think it'll be interesting at the end of this when we announce if anybody's mind has changed on anybody. And I'm not talking about, like, if something happens in the NBA, like Kawhi wins another championship or something. But you stand out foremost in my mind with that, Ray, because you have so many guys that none of us have. And I wonder sometimes, like, because you argue hard for some of these guys, especially, like, you argued really hard for Oakley. You know, there was somebody else we argued pretty good about. Worthy. You know, the argument for Worthy was pretty good. I think sometimes I wonder what's going through your head after some of these. You know, because I will not say who it was because I do want it to be a surprise at the end. One of you has changed my mind already. I'm going to add somebody to my list that is not on my list. But it's interesting to me with you, and I'm very much looking forward to the end when we announce any changes.
Is it Kawhi? I'm just joking. Is it? No.
Anyway, but anyway, that being said, let's move on to our trivia section, guys. Trivia is where it's at this week.
I'm going to go first before I forget it.
Okay, go ahead, Wade.
All right. Who has the most career points in Brooklyn Nets history?
Brooklyn Nets. So is this only including Brooklyn or before?
I believe New Jersey counts.
Okay, New Jersey counts.
I'm gonna go with Jason Kidd.
Okay.
That's a good guess. I'm going to go with Richard Jefferson.
I'll go with Jefferson.
Ray, are you cheating on your phone?
No, I'm just going to go crazy and say Kerry Kittles.
Kerry Kittles is actually, I think, in the top, 5, actually. But it's Brooke Lopez.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Brooke
wow.
Lopez? Really?
He has like 11,000 points. No one ever stayed there. It's like him and Darren Williams are both have like 10,800 and some. And then it's like Vince, Kidd, Jefferson, Kittles.
Well, that's the reason I picked Jefferson is because of his longevity.
Right,
Because,
yeah.
like you said, nobody stays there a long
Yeah,
time.
but halfway through his career, he left. So Jefferson. But yeah, Brooke Lopez is almost 11,000.
I see that one coming. I got my question. If everyone's ready.
Yeah.
Who won the first scoring title?
Very first score. I guess I'm going to say George Mikan.
I would say George Mikan.
I have a strong feeling it's Bob Pettit. But I don't know. I don't know when they start keeping track of that, like giving out actual titles.
That's true. I mean, I know when the first year of the NBA is, which is pre Bob Pettit.
Yeah,
but they didn't give out MVPs till Bob Pettit.
Yeah,
so
Bob
I don't
Pettit won
know.
the first one of that.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know. Is it like the official scoring title, or is it just who was the leading scorer in the first year of the NBA?
The official scoring title.
Okay.
Ooh.
I'll go Bob Pettit. Screw it.
All right, Ray.
Let's go Pettit. Let's see where this goes.
Joe Folks.
Who?
Ooh.
He actually
He played with Paul.
he played with Paul
Arizin.
Arizin.
He was
Yeah.
the second best player.
The
on
reason I know
team.
who that is because it's my research of Arizin. Yeah.
Cool.
That was a tricky one.
All right, well, I'll go. I'll stick with our Chris Mullin theme. Chris Mullin is one of 3 Warriors players that has 2,000 points, 400 rebounds, and 400 assists with Golden State. So, who are the other 2?
Wait.
I would say Rick Barry's one of them.
I'm going to say Rick Barry and Will Chamberlain.
Wait, can you repeat the stats part again?
All right. He's 2,000 points, 400 rebounds, 400 assists.
I'm going to go Barry and Curry.
I'll go Barry, and I'm probably saying crazy stuff, but I'm going to go Chris Webber.
I'm going to go with Barry and Curry.
Alex is correct. It's Chamberlain and Barry.
Ooh.
I was hoping Curry got 400 rebounds.
Does that leave me?
No, I got one.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
All right. Between the years of 1989 and 1998, how many different players won the NBA rebounding title?
So you're not looking for players, you're just looking for a number of players.
I'm looking for a number of players.
So we're looking at, you said in 89 to 98?
What you're looking at 9-year span.
9 years, so I'm going to say 8.
Okay.
I'm going to say 5.
Okay.
I'll go with 3.
Okay.
I'm going to go 4.
All right. The correct answer is 3, which is Hakeem Olajuwon from 89 to 90, David Robinson from 1991, and then you have Dennis Rodman, who tore up the most part of the decade, was 92 to 98.
Nice.
All right. So, and our last question here is from me. What player from our lists is also known as Jesus Shuttlesworth?
Ray Allen.
Wade seems pretty confident. I'm going to stick with him and say Ray Allen.
Jesus Shuttlesworth.
There's a lot of people judging you right now. I thought this was really easy. I thought Uncle Doug would respond like Wade.
Well, you just gave away the answer.
Ray Allen. Let's go
I'm
with
gonna go
Ray
Ray
Allen.
Allen because I knew he was in a movie.
Yeah, it is Ray Allen. He was Jesus Shuttlesworth in a movie with Denzel Washington.
Yeah,
guys.
Denzel's his dad. He goes to prison.
He got game.
Oh. Man, it's been like 20 years since I've seen that movie.
I believe it was it's probably been longer than that. Well, maybe not since you've seen it. I thought you meant when it come out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was like Ray Allen's like rookie year, something like late
Oh,
90s.
yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Did that one have Tupac in it? Is that the one with Tupac?
Yeah, because he's is he one of the people that tries to lure Ray Allen
I think
back
so,
into
yeah.
the streets or whatever?
Yeah.
Maybe. It might be Tupac.
It
I
might
don't
have been the
remember.
one with Tupac in it.
Tupac's in a few movies there for a while.
All right. So after this week, the scores are as follows: Ray with 9,
Oh, shit.
Doug and Alex with I apologize. Alex with 16, Doug with 17, Wade with 19, and Drew with 20.
That side of the room is just kicking us.
Yeah.
Well, I think Drew staying quiet and answering last helps him dramatically.
What do you mean?
Because
I
you
answered
pick-
first on like 2 or 3 of the questions.
You piggyback on other people's correct
I said
answers.
Rick Barry first. I said Jason Kidd first.
You were wrong on Jason Kidd.
You were wrong on Jason
You were
Kidd.
wrong.
And
So
Rick
good.
Barry's only half the answer.
I still went first. I didn't piggyback.
No, it's because on that side of the room it has the Pacers Magic with Larry Bird and Artest.
That's true. It's right behind me.
All right, so that wraps up this week's Chris Mullin episode. Good job, Ray. And we will see you next week to discuss Pistol Pete Maravich, where Uncle Doug will be defending. And we will see you next week. Thanks for the listen. Sports the Nemo way.